Service Committee, April 20th, 2023.
Well, I'd call the Service Committee meeting to order at 6 o'clock p.m. Members present are Steve Young, Brenton Potter, myself, Chairman. Aaron Sherrick is absent. First on the agenda is public participation. Anybody from the public want to get up and talk on anything to deal with service? Seeing none, we need to approve the minutes of the March 23rd Service Committee meeting. I need a motion from somebody to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 23rd minutes.
We got a motion from Steve. Need a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Brendan. All in favor? Usual sign. Aye. Okay. Next on the agenda is the airport, and I guess Mr. Wagner wants to introduce who's going to talk about the airport.
Yeah, CMT is our engineering firm, and Ben Cooley is one of our reps from CMT, and we have an item in the budget for a design of a new terminal at the airport, and I'll let Ben going to go over how that needs to work. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, so I'm Ben Cooley with Crawford, Murphy, and Tilley. So yes, we have a couple different things sort of slated for the airport right now, but the first one is sort of some preliminary work. The FAA has directed us to do some alternative layouts for where we might build a new hangar first before we get into the actual terminal, sorry, not hangar, into the terminal design where we might build or relocate the existing terminal to. And so we're doing some preliminary work so that we can apply for some future funds down the line out there at the airport, as well as some additional lighting out on the runway, upgrading the lights. We have quite old lighting system out there, so doing the design work to finish that piece up. I can get into specifics of details or whatever, but that's kind of the airport projects for this year. Schedule-wise, the FAA grants are due May 5th, and so we're right in that sort of, the window is closing where we want to get all of our applications for grants in now. They will issue the grant sometime in August or September, and that's when we can start reimbursing our fees, and then anything else at that time.
I will add, out of the $22,000, we have our 5% in the budget, but we have to put up the rest of the $20,900, and then by August or September, we'll get that money back. So I've been working with our auditor, and so that's something that you guys have to decide. If I know we're in a financial crunch, but we'll get it back in August. So, and we only got to pay 5% of the design. We can't ask really for a better deal than that, but it's totally up to council. So, and Ben, if you want to add anything else, go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Anybody got any questions, sir? Got any questions, Steve? No. Okay, does this need to go in as an emergency, you think?
Yeah, well, we should have it in by May, right?
It's got to be in by May 5th?
Yeah, so, well, yeah, you would have to, because it'd have to get past May 2nd.
Okay.
So we could get it into you.
Okay, well, thank you for coming up and giving us a little information on it. No problem. We'll entertain a motion to move us on to request legislation at the May 2nd meeting. Need a motion to do that. For 22, right, Jeff? 22,000?
It'd be $20,900, correct? Because we have 1,100 in that line already.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you look at your packet that I handed out, the paperclip, it's the, I want to say, third page. It's doing appropriations to do it tonight or refer it to council or Ben.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's 20,900.
But I think all you have to do is approve it to go to finance.
Yeah, we'll do that. Approve it to go to finance. Need a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion to
Good.
send it to finance.
Need a second.
Second.
All, got a motion, excuse me, by Brenton, second by Steve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Any more open projects from anybody from the Service Committee? Seeing none, any more public participation? Yes.
Vicki Dishon, 1108 Hillcrest Drive. The application that we need to have filed for the airport, I mean, we know for sure that we're going to get the money.
Is this a question for him as he's?
Yeah.
I heard the word airport twice now. Yes, it is, once again, the federal government doesn't guarantee anything, but it is gonna, yes, it is slated to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Vicki.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll adjourn at 6:08.
Health and Safety Committee, April 20th, 2023.
We'll call Health and Safety order at 6:07 PM. Members present are Steve Young, Mark McKeever, and myself, Chair. Dan Wireball is absent. The first item is public participation. Does anybody have anything for health and safety? Come to the podium, give us your name and address.
I wonder about four of these. My name and address, I'm Dennis Long. My actual address is 118 West Church Street. I'm here to speak about the gentleman that lives at 1010 Marion Road, who I'm the POA for. And I want to thank you all for letting me come here today. My main reason for talking is City Code 505.06, nuisance condition prohibits. A friend of mine that lives on Marion Road bought this house in the spring of 2020. He looked in Galion, northern Marion County, but decided to buy here in Galion, or Bucyrus. And he had to make accommodation to the house for health conditions. Before I start with this, I want to let you know that I own a dog, and Scott also owns a dog. But after he bought this house, the neighbor had gotten 3 dogs. The neighbor did not control. The dogs bark at all different times. Talking to Scott this morning, he said the dogs actually barked from 11 o'clock last night until 4 this morning. Whenever you folks, because I know complaints have been issued to the city, and when you folks go down there, they do take care of the dogs for a short while. And then also the dog warden has been there, because I spoke to the dog warden. And the same thing, they do accommodate for a short while, then they forget. The friend I'm speaking of is a 6-year Navy vet. He served on the Kitty Hawk during the Gulf War. He is permanently disabled as a result of that serving in the military. And I also understand that in the neighborhood, there's a couple folks that are looking to sell their homes because of the dogs. And you may have seen where there was a zoning petition that come through where one of the neighbors, due to the dogs, had asked for a taller fence to help keep away from that. So it's not something new. It's been going on for a while. But then I'm reading through the city code. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot the code does to remedy it. Calls it a misdemeanor. The only thing that concerns is that there's nothing in the code that I could see that shows where it elevates if the continual violation continues. And then also the other part is we were told that we need to call the police to come down and deal with this. I think they got plenty to do. Scott also thinks they have plenty to do instead of coming down after a dog concern. And I guess kind of what I also wonder, if you have a dog that's continually barking, again, being a pet owner myself, where do you differentiate between chattels and a pet? You know, if it's a pet, you're going to find out why it's barking and try to take care of it. If they're chattels, you don't care. But, you know, and again, I know dealing with noise issues in dogs is a touchy situation for a council, something that really you don't want to do, and I can appreciate that. But again, just something that you can maybe give thought to if you would, and again, it's more of an information as to, it's somewhat of a complaint, but just to let you know things are going on, and if something could be possibly looked at or done about it. But that's all I have. I do appreciate you taking time to listen to me.
Thanks, Mr. Long. What I'll share with you is that I'm not certain if our noise ordinance is still an open project or not. So if it's not, we can't discuss it tonight as a group. But what we can do is have the council clerk verify if it is not still an open project, we can refer it at the May 2nd meeting to where at the committee meeting on May the 4th, we could then have a discussion with this committee to talk about that. So I think that's the plan we're going to take. So if you're interested, you're welcome to come back up here at 6 o'clock on May the 4th, where we'll engage in some more conversation. We had looked at our noise ordinance previously. There were a couple of issues with why kind of what was on the books was unenforceable, namely the meters to read the decibels and things like that. There was a lot of things. It was about 4 years ago that we took a look at this, and we looked at several noise ordinances from other communities, and just really it kind of fizzled out when we realized that it was going to be a problem, for the equipment. And then it really became it wasn't very subjective, it was more objective as far as, what noise is noise and not noise. And so it kind of just didn't go anywhere at that time, but I think we as a committee would be happy to take it up again and see if there's anything we can do. So I welcome you to come up and participate in that conversation if you'd like.
My concern is this gentleman is very ill, and it disrupts his sleep. The layout of his home, his bedrooms are on the side where the dogs are. His living room and dining room are on the other, so we cannot, because we even looked at trying to do all these things to alleviate the problem. And unfortunately, our hands are tied on what we can do.
Yeah.
And he has made major improvements to his home, because he's even thinking about moving. But he has put significant money in the home to accommodate his wheelchairs and so forth. So he's kind of unfortunately stuck, and I can talk to him on the phone and hear the dogs in the background.
Yeah.
So.
Mr. Gerner, is there anything else that I've missed that you could share now, or is this pretty much we'll see what we can dive into on May the 4th?
Yeah. Yeah, so it does say in the noise ordinance, causing an unreasonable to the person of ordinary sensibilities or something to that effect, which I think is why when Joe Sr. had that case above the horseshoe, they indicated that it was sort of unenforceable based upon ambiguity. I don't necessarily agree completely, and I think that was also a situation too where that was a specific spot, right? If you buy a house above or right next to the horseshoe bar, you anticipate there's going to be loud noises until whatever time the horseshoe closes, 2:30, whatever it is. But yes, in a private neighborhood, I think 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. would be fairly unreasonable, and I assume that there's multiple neighbors that would, vouch for that. Like, yes, it's unreasonable, and so yes, my first thought would be, okay, well, we could talk to the dog warden, we could talk, but it sounds like you've gone those routes, and we've found short-term fixes. And so, I suppose it could be something where we do file a criminal complaint, and even if it is simply a misdemeanor, through misdemeanor probation, you have the ability, to have your dogs appropriately behaved or, not barking unreasonably through all hours of the night. And, if you can't comply with those terms, then the court does have limited ability for forfeitures and things to that effect. So it's something I will look at, but yes, I know when I first came here, they were talking about the noise ordinance and it's unenforceable. I'm not sure if that's completely accurate. I think given that circumstance and given actually how many decibels, but 11 a.m. to 4 a.m., I think anybody of ordinary sensibilities would find that fairly unreasonable.
Good. Well, and also when looking at this, the one I was looking at was your ordinance 505.06. That was the one that actually deals with dogs. And then 511.01 is general prohibitions, which is talking about the basically artificial generation of noise.
Yeah. So the clerk did confirm it is an open project, so we will have her put that on our agenda for May the 4th, where the law director as well as committee members will have some time to kind of review what we've got on the books and be able to have a conversation.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other public participation for health and safety? Seeing none, you have in front of you the minutes from the March 23rd, 2023 regular Health and Safety Committee. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Motion from Mr. McKeever, second from Mr. Young. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. That motion passes. All right, next you have Ohio Revised Code 4511.21, distracted driving. Mr. Gernert, I'm assuming that's from you.
It was. So previously, I had discussed with you the change in the speed limits in business districts had now become jailable, and also this change of the speed limits. Well, they didn't change the speed limits, they changed the penalties in business districts as well as school districts. I don't know if that's something that council wanted to further discuss as far as should city council mirror what the Ohio Revised Code is, or if they wanted to keep them still unclassified misdemeanors. If you charge somebody under Bucyrus City Code, the city gets a portion of the fine money. If you charge somebody further under Bucyrus City Code and it's jailable and the person does end up in jail, Bucyrus has to pay, I don't know what it is, but Bucyrus has to pay for housing that individual to the county. So I think that my suggestion would be keep the code as is, allowing the Bucyrus police or whoever wants to cite under Bucyrus City Code to cite them as unclassified misdemeanors, which are subject to fines and community service, but leave the jailable portions out of the Bucyrus City Code so as to not overburden funds, and allow, I think, sort of an aside, but talking to State Highway Patrol, the sheriff, some police officers, you're going to see a lot of 34 in a 25 zone, because that's 9 miles per hour over the speed limit, and it doesn't click the jailable, and that means they don't have the right to a jury trial on a speeding ticket and things to that effect. So I think at least now, until Chief Ostenheimer informs me differently, I would leave it as is, allowing our city officers to cite under the city code and not have the jailable provisions in those specific instances. But that's just my 2 cents on that.
Mr. Young, how do you feel about changing or leaving?
I don't think we need to change it. I think we need to keep it the same.
Mr. McKeever?
I agree. Like you said, we'd have to pay for the jailing if we didn't do that.
I also agree, so if you guys are fine with that, we'll leave that be as is and move on. Next on there is billet and manpower. Really, this is more for finance, but because it involves, it was a request from the fire chief who's applied for the SAFER grant, wants to add 6 positions. I don't know if we as a committee just need to say that's fine by us and move it on to finance. Mark, your thoughts?
Coming from a SAFER grant, it'll be funded by the SAFER grant.
Correct.
More power to it.
We'll just, we'll say we as a committee are fine, we'll move that on to finance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Gernert, where are we staying with the taxi cab? Yes.
You have it, I believe.
Oh.
Motion?
I don't think we need that because we're not requesting any legislation.
Okay.
Got it.
So previously we had discussed if you're a business or a person, you need to register your taxi cab business and vehicles. So I added that language in there. We had talked about the insurance policy should be a commercial automobile policy. That was added in there. I think it indicated previously 10 days in which your insurance policy, if it was going to lapse, the insurance agency had a 10-day grace period or a 10-day period in which they needed to get notify the city that an insurance company on a taxi cab was going to lapse. Based upon Mr. Meyer's suggestion, we just put not 10 days, but based upon the current industry standard. I think you said it was 30 to 45.
Currently it's 30, yeah.
But we just put the current industry standard. Through Mr. Castor, as well as some of the discussion here. Leads checks, obviously, not so obviously, but leads checks are governed by very specific privacy laws, and their dissemination is highly restricted. And so I put in there that any person applying for a driver's license under this, and that would be a personal driver's license, so you're going to have the actual car licensed, and then you would also have the person licensed driving the car. But the personal car license for somebody, no, the personal person's license for somebody driving, they would need to bring a person's person?
She's excited to type these minutes, I can tell.
Exactly. You would need to bring a FBI, BCI background check, and I think we would leave, that to the discretion of Bucyrus law enforcement. If FBI was sufficient, if BCI was sufficient. And then you had also indicated some of the language in G and I was sort of, it allowed for police discretion if you think the guy or the person has a poor driving history or creates a risk or something to that effect. So both G and I were deleted. And I think that's all that I have, unless there are other issues, questions, comments, or concerns.
Mr. Young? Nope. Mr. McKeever?
I like the revisions. I think it helps improve our ordinance for this.
Brings it into this century, so thank you. I'd entertain a motion to request legislation be sent to full council.
I'll request that.
Hold on one moment.
Jenny Vermillion, 515 Hill Street. This question is for Mr. Gernert. You had said that in the section where you were going to leave it up to the police department to whether accept the BCI or the federal background check, it says and, not and or.
Okay. So in the final draft that we bring to council, I'll change that to and or.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vermillion. So I would entertain a motion to request legislation.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McKeever, second by Mr. Young. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll send that on to full council. All right, any further public participation for health and safety? Hearing none, we will adjourn at 6:23 p.m.
April 20th, 2023.
I'll call platting to order at 6:24 p.m. Members present, Kevin Myers, Terry Spiegel, and myself, Chair. Dan Wireball is absent. Is there any public participation for public lands?
Platting.
Platting. Thank you. Platting. I'm looking at public lands.
He's not on the public lands committee.
I know, I'm not. Okay. All right, members, you have before you the approval of the minutes for March 9th. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve March 9th as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion. All those, if there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Next one is approval of minutes for March 23rd.
I'll make a motion to accept them.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Gotta ask. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, motion passed. Okay, shipping containers, storage containers, and similar objects, discussion from public hearing. Has anybody got any comments, questions, inquiries?
Well, we had no proponents and one relative opponent, or proponent. We had one person in favor and nobody against. Was it two? I think John was speaking as an employee.
Yeah.
I counted in my head. Yeah, you're right.
We did have two.
Yeah. So our next step then is to request the legislation.
Right. Terry, what is your thoughts on that?
I
Did you
thought-
think it was pretty good how he had it written up?
Yeah, I thought John did a good job on it.
Yeah. I agree with Terry. I
Tuesday
don't see
night,
any
so-
need to make any changes.
Nope, nope.
Is
So,
this just a regular piece of legislation?
Yeah. Well, I don't think
I'll
it's-
make a motion to request,
okay, go ahead, make your motion. Make your motion.
I'll make a motion to request regular legislation as presented at the public hearing.
Could we go,
I'll second.
Jim Meade,
Yeah,
73
second
West Perry
first.
Street, could we go over that again, or do we have any copies of anything?
I don't think so.
It might be, I don't know if I brought it from the other night or not.
I guess my question is this allowing containers altogether?
Yes, but it's on a conditional.
It's not disallowing them, there still will be provisions to use a
You
shipping
have,
container.
you have to apply for a variance to the BZA. You just can't put it in.
It'll follow the International Property Maintenance Code.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say I want to build a garage, but I got 2 storage sheds in the back of my house, and I have to have something where to put the stuff. So I have to go through the BZA.
Are you talking for temporary?
Yeah, just
I
temporary.
brought that question up the other night, and I think the answer that Mr. Ostash gave was it's not, you know, if it's something temporary like that, it's not.
So we apply for a permit to have it,
I think so.
I believe you have
I
to,
think that would be what you'd come up to.
Yeah.
like a $10 permit or whatever.
right,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
for a temporary,
Yeah.
this is for permanent storage.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that. I wouldn't be interested in that in long term for anybody in the city of Bucyrus. Short term is what I was asking.
Yeah.
House
Renovations.
renovation,
Right,
you know, somebody needs to store their furniture on the outside in a pod,
right.
Yeah.
they're allowed
Right.
Yeah.
with a,
I don't know if you have to have it for pod or not. Only if it was the bigger ones, isn't it? Because pod's a company that does that.
No, he's talking about temporary storage.
Yeah, I don't
Yes.
think the size was mentioned though. and-
There was no size
I
mentioning
don't
in
think,
it.
I don't think you have, a company, you'd have to have a permission to do that with, a permit to do that, I don't think.
I know John worked on this, I'll have to have him.
Yeah, I don't know. I-
Just to verify what
Yeah.
you need. If it's just temporary, I don't know if you'd even need a permit.
I don't either.
As long as we know it's not permanent.
Yeah.
So, but I'll have John call you tomorrow.
You're retired now? You can come up and see him tomorrow.
For public
I was
record,
supposed to be retired,
I
it's not
know.
working out that way.
for public record, you need to state your name and address. We know you, but,
He did.
okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure.
I can hear it again.
Okay.
James, me, 873 West Perry Street, Bucyrus, Ohio. Got it?
Yes. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
Mike Castor, 130 Brentwood Street. More of a question, Mr. McKeever, and probably more for Mr. Gurnan. And I'm not learned on all your ordinances and so on, but you kind of stuttered when you read the one statement there about what you're talking about, and you made reference to objects or other objects like this early on about what you're discussing. You made reference to objects. Is that also going to cover people building a storage structure, how it will be?
This is strictly amending one part of this current ordinance of 118707. It's only amending and adding to it portable shipping containers, storage containers, and similar objects.
Okay.
That's how it's written.
What, so, and as I recall from all the meeting, what you're referring to is temporary storage containers or so on, storage things. Cargo.
Cargo
Carrier
box. So
trucks.
similar objects such as, not limited to ISO boxes, semi-trailers, shipping containers, cargo containers, military surplus Conex boxes.
Okay.
But so, yeah, so if you want to build an accessory structure on your property, you already have to get a permit, and depending on what that accessory structure is, you may have to file for a variance to get that built. Any of these pre-built storage containers that you want to have permanently placed on your land as an accessory building or as a storage shed would have to then be run through the Board of Zoning Appeals
Okay.
to make sure
So-
that it's appropriate.
So, because help from dragging this out. So this cargo trailers, I understood and so on, it was whether there are other avenues to prevent somebody from coming in, throwing up a quick 2x4 structure in their backyard and throwing galvanized steel on the side of it, would still be a storage shed, and I didn't know if your other city ordinances covered or could prevent that. since you mentioned the word objects, a frame structure with a wall onto it might be kind of tough to argue being an object.
Yeah, this particular change doesn't address that, and I think, like you said, that's going to be what's already in place.
Okay,
with the
it can,
permitting.
but there are avenues to handle
Yeah,
people
yeah.
from doing that,
Yeah.
where they can be denied. If they come in and say, I want to build this
Right.
Yeah, they
15
still
by
have to-
15, 2x4 structure, put galvanized
They
steel on
still
the
have to
side.
work with the setback requirements and all that stuff,
Okay.
everything that's in place.
I guess the only reason I asked, you kind of started and I kind of caught the word object, and
Right.
a structure may not.
That's what's written into the
That's
ordinance.
written, that's how it's
And-
written.
Yeah, and I understand for the cargo, but I just wanted to make sure that you weren't tying your own hands a little bit, maybe.
No, try
Okay.
not to.
Okay, I have a first and a second. If there's no other discussion, he seconded.
Yeah.
Kevin made the motion.
I didn't think I seconded it yet, but I will.
I heard you say it as he was
Well,
talking.
they were talking at the same time though, so.
Okay.
Okay, I second.
I do have a second. Okay. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Okay. Is there anything from the open projects?
Not for me.
Me neither.
Okay. Any other public participation? None being. I will adjourn planning at 6:33 PM.
Economic Development Committee, April 20th, 2023.
I'd like to call Economic Development to order at 6:34 PM. Members present, Steve Young, Mark McKeever, myself, Chair. C. Aaron Sherrick is absent. First thing is any public participation. Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of minutes from the March 23, 2023 regular Economic Development Committee meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the March 23rd minutes.
Second that.
Got a first from Steve and a second from Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on. Any open projects you guys want to discuss tonight? Steve, no? Okay. Well, then we'll just open it back up for public participation. Seeing none, we will adjourn at 6:35 PM.
Public Lands and Buildings Committee, April 20th, 2023.
Calling Public Lands and Buildings to order at 6:36 PM. Members present are Kevin Myers, Brenton Potter, and myself, C. Aaron Sherrick, Chair. Darren Wireball was not able to make it tonight. Do we have any public participation? All right, do we have anybody willing to make a motion for the approval of minutes from the March 23rd regular Public Lands and Buildings Committee meeting?
So moved. Second.
So we have a first by Mr. Myers and a second by Mr. Potter. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next on is the Pines Reservoir.
If I could, I know I've been talking with Ray, and we talked a little bit today again, and the gentleman that he mentioned from the conservatory says he'd reached out to me. I didn't get anything. Did he get a hold of you?
Yeah, he's trying to put something together to be able to come up here and have a thing for us.
Another meeting or two from now, maybe? Okay.
Yeah.
The question I brought up with Mr. Wagner earlier that I'll share, and he said there's some questions for Mr. Gernert in that, you know, Ray's been very vocal about wanting to make sure the land gets utilized and not just sit. And I know we've got the no trespassing signs, the chain fences there and things. And I think part of the reason that Mr. Wagner shared with that is because, you know, people are going back there and dumping things and things like that. So vehicular traffic was a problem. Ray had asked the question, and I posed it to Mr. Wagner, who kind of is going to send it over to you. Is there a way that, you know, Mr. Thitoff could find a way to put some people together? He wants to go in and start putting some trails in and things like that. Liability concerns, you know, is there, you know, like the people that go in and harvest the wood and things, we've had them sign a waiver. Is that something that if Ray wants to put a group together that we can do a similar thing to start letting that land get, so it's public land, let it get some public use?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you could have anybody that has access to it sign a waiver. That's the more pressing issue would be people that we don't know that are there, that we don't know that are wandering on that property, if somebody gets injured and we're not, so like you have the reservoir and we mow the reservoir and we have paths around the reservoir. We have Unger Park, all of the other parks, Lowell Volk Park, there are paths, they are preserved, they are taken care of, they are maintained. And I haven't been out to the Pines, but it's my understanding that the Pines is just sitting there, and there's not a coordinated effort, A, to keep anybody out of there, or B, to maintain it. And I know that people are, well, it's public property, why wouldn't anybody in the public be able to go out there whenever they want? But there's all kinds of public property that's semi-public. You know, different ballpark stadiums are owned by the municipalities, but I'm not allowed to go climb around on those at any point. Airports are municipally owned. I'm not allowed to run around on an airport. Parks in the city of Bucyrus, if you're in a park, you're not allowed there after dark. And if you're there after dark and we catch you there after dark, you're trespassing. The fairgrounds, there's a gate and it's locked based upon liability issues. And I guess my main reason for bringing it up is it's been there for a couple years now, and we really haven't done anything. And so, whatever we do, you know, I mean, we would either need, if you're going to allow public access to it, unfettered public access, I think that we would need a coordinated program or a coordinated group of people that are going to maintain and create trails. And if we're not going to maintain or create anything, then legally the best option to avoid any liability would be to prevent access to it.
So is it as simple as to say that if the administration's content with, you know, getting a waiver sign and things like that, that could be a coordinated effort between, you know, Mr. Thitoff and a group of people that he wants to do that with the administration?
Sure. I guess my question too, like, right now, there are no trespassing signs, correct?
Correct, we have a gate up there because people go back there and dump tires,
There's a gate that
TVs,
says
whatever.
stop.
Yeah.
So you can't get a car back there.
No,
Right, but by and large, then it's open, other than
I
cars.
mean, yeah, you can walk around the gate, but
Right.
I would prefer not to take the gate open, or, you know.
Well, no,
open
the
gate,
gate's
but-
not open, right,
Yeah,
but, right, so there's, yeah. I would, best case scenario, I would sign up with Mr. Thitoff and whomever else, yes, to start maintaining, managing, making some trails, but in the interim, you know, present visible signage that this is not, you know, public access is not.
No
allowed.
trespassing without authorization from the city administration. Call this phone number for access.
Right,
Right that off 210 Ethel Street.
yeah,
There's actually, back when you were allowed to bow hunt it, which you haven't been allowed for a couple years now for some reason, there's actually signs from years ago in the back that says hunting with permission from the mayor's office. Couldn't you put a sign up like that? No trespassing or permission from the mayor's office, that type of thing.
he just said
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Is that what you just said?
yeah.
Something similar to that, but yeah.
That gate you have on the back is awesome. I would leave that there. The Route 30 side is the most accessible area. But the dumping of the trash and the TVs and the tires, I'd make that gate permanent on that side because all the pine trees you can't see back in there, and people dump back in there. People do all kinds of crap back in there, but Route 30, it's not like that. So the Route 30 side, old Route 30 side.
Wait, you're saying the old Route 30 side is more secure?
Yeah, it's out in the open, you can't dump TVs, you can't
gotcha.
sit there and do illegal stuff, and when you were able to fish it, there was a trail that started right there and went around the pines.
Yeah.
And since it hasn't been fished for a couple of years, that trail's starting to go away, so it wouldn't take much to put that trail back in there.
Right.
And the parking's there, trash can's still there. Obviously, the sign's been taken down with the ODNR sign.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Stetzer side, I'd permanently close that. Just an idea.
Is it sufficient then enough just to basically ask him to kind of get with you guys and formulate a plan that lets him move that forward a little bit?
The only thing I would say is, I mean, if West Creek Conservatory is coming in, why would we want to do?
Right, I was gonna say, why don't we wait till.
Yeah, I'm just saying so you
last
could start
week.
talking about it. I'm not saying to go out and start working tomorrow, but
Right. Well, I'm dying to get out there and
I
start
mean-
working, but
Closing the gate and not putting it up, a no trespassing sign is kind of like a silly idea to begin with. You're either wanting them to stop and not go in, or you didn't care. There's not really, and people just go around the gate. But yeah, I've been wondering for a while why there wasn't something if people wanted to have that closed off.
and like I said, that site I think needs to stay closed unless you clear all them pine trees out and you can see back in there. I would leave that gate up.
It's just a big hole in the ground, right?
I don't like when you say that, because you yourself said you haven't been out there. You don't know nothing about the gate.
I have not been in it. I've seen the gate that you're talking about on the Stetzer side.
It's actually a marsh. There's ducks, there's geese, there's deer up the wazoo.
Lots of green foliage. It's growing.
In the wintertime, it looks like crap, but here in the summertime, it's
Oh,
gonna
I'm
be
sure.
green.
But there's substantial rise and fall of terrain.
Well, obviously, yeah, where the bank were, I mean, you can stand out in the middle of it. That used to be 10, 12 foot deep,
Right.
obviously, but gradually that steep bank's gonna go away. I mean, erosion is gonna level out a little bit.
Right, so you got teenagers out there drinking and somebody walks and falls off the edge of the cliff. That's problematic, and that's what I'm
They'd have to
talking
walk half a mile back to fall off a cliff. I mean, it's a bank, it's not a cliff. You could fall off and bounce right back up. I mean, drunk people bounce. Yeah, it's not like you're gonna fall and break your neck.
Can we get that in the minutes?
I need that t-shirt.
That can happen anywhere though, and I guess for me, I don't see where we.
It's not a death trap, if that's what you're saying. It's not a stone quarry.
It's public land.
And if you have a sign that says no trespassing without permission, then.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I don't understand why we didn't put that up in the first place. I thought that they said they were gonna do that when they closed it.
My thing is, at Dothwaite Reservoir, you fall in and crack your head on one of them big rocks. Who's liable for that? What's the
I got
difference?
a buddy broke his leg because fell on the big rocks.
Yeah.
Is the
He
city
didn't
liable
bounce.
for that?
Yeah,
Must not have been
How
drinking.
long ago did your buddy fall?
we've passed the 7 years.
Good. I haven't been to the Alfwith, but
We
I
had
know
people
that
drown at the Dothwaite Reservoir, and the
What's
city
that?
wasn't liable for that, right?
I don't know what you said. You put a
People have drowned.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, what's the difference between walking around the pines and walking around Dothwaite Reservoir? I don't understand.
There are significant legal distinctions that would bore everybody to sleep, but your point is well taken. So absolutely, you could get sued for somebody drowning in the Alfwith Reservoir as well, but that's maintained, that's open and obvious. There are people by there. It's not a abandoned
We see it to be
reservoir.
open and maintained, if I could get in there and open it and maintain it.
Yeah, right,
Right as we speak, it's closing up every day, so.
right, which is what we're trying to prove.
So we're gonna wait and try to get Joe Leslie in here then, or?
And I
And you
was
said
gonna-
you talked to Josh Dyer again?
Yeah, I talked to Josh again, and I asked him to come in and check things out when Joe Leslie says he can come. So as soon as we can get the one, the other will hopefully be
Yeah.
here, so we can have everybody,
And maybe, like we said, get a coordinated effort together. I like it.
it would be really nice.
So where are we going with the signs,
I think we
permission by
definitely need
mayor?
some signs up, I mean,
Yeah, we
Say
can get
that.
them up, I mean, we can work on an agreement with you, through the mayor's
Say-
office.
and
We can get it ready, but then we'll wait till they come and talk about it, and then.
I was gonna say, and
We'll go
even
from
if
there.
Ray wanted to
Because I know
travel
Kelly,
back through there just to see if he, because maybe Joe wants somebody to take him back there and show him the.
I've been back through there a couple of times already in the last few weeks, so.
I
And
see,
I offered to
so-
take Josh Dyer back there too. But I know Kelly is great when it comes to getting the hunting permissions and stuff.
Yeah.
If that's something she could work with, getting a permit to
We
walk
can do that.
pines, I mean, she's got that down to a science, so. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Same person. Have we looked at any grants or anything to help out with the cleanup?
I know these guys did, 2 years ago, I know.
Well, the problem with.
The cleanup's really done.
The problem with grants most of the time is you gotta have 20% down to get them to get applied to get 80%. And we don't have that 20%, depending how much we're looking to spend. And I have no idea what that would be.
Yeah, well,
to
it's
renovate it.
clean already. I mean, the cleanup was done, and now it's just really,
Well, we make it agreement
what I understand from the Conservancy thing, they do all the improvements, they fix everything up.
From what it sounds like, they pay us to take over the land while they fix it,
Right,
and then
and
they
you get-
donate it back to.
Or you
whether
get the
it's-
option to
Yeah.
lease it, I think, back or something, but I think we need to talk
Yeah.
to that Joe Leslie.
It sounds quite interesting versus, you know. Okay. Anything else on the Pines? All right, do we have any other open projects anybody needed to talk about tonight? Any other public participation? All right, seeing none, we will end public lands at 6:49 PM.
Committee, April 20th, 2023.
Okay, I will call finance order at 6:50 PM. Members present, Kevin Myers, Terry Spiegel, and myself as acting chair. Dan Wireball is absent. Okay, is there any public participation for finance? None being. Before you have the minutes from March 23rd for the regular finance committee meeting. Is there any, if there's no questions or discussions?
I'll move to approve as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay. First from Kevin, second from Terry. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion pass. Airport. Jeff?
Ms. Auditor, would you like to just explain how we want to fund that?
So, as Jeff has explained during the service committee meeting, they're going to, we need to front the money, but then we're going to get reimbursed that $20,900. It will be going on the, oh no, I turned away from it. It will be going into the general fund in the airport department on the capital outlay line. And then come August, we would be reimbursed that $20,900 and we would only be paying the remaining 5%.
So would that be an appropriation?
Yes, sorry, it's an appropriation is what we're trying to do.
It needs to be done by May.
Yeah, can any of the ones on the list be combined, or are these all gonna be separate?
Well, I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to go, so I was going to do this one separate, but we can combine all of them if you want to
Okay.
combine all of them.
Or I guess we could make motions for each of them and you can decide what to put together, not together. Does that work that way? Yes. Okay. I would move to approve the appropriation for $20,900 to fund the airport project as an emergency.
I will second that.
Okay. All right, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Okay. We have the legislation for the road salt, the annual road salt. So,
You have it, but you
Yep.
have to also request it.
right, so you have that before you. Which we,
Chair, may I?
yes, yes.
All we did was, our state purchase program was salt through the state. We've been doing it since I've been here. And we're just changing the dates on the legislation, and we kept the 1,000 ton to the same. And we ought to get a good price this year, I would think, but we just got to have it in by May.
May the 4th or 2nd or something like that.
No, we got to have it in by May 1st.
May 1st.
I'll make a motion to request emergency legislation authorizing and directing the Service Safety Director to enter into contract with the Ohio Department of Transportation to participate in the annual road salt bid.
I will second that.
All right. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor?
I did say this, I requested emergency legislation.
He did.
As emergency, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Budget and income tax. Okay.
You want to address that?
I don't have any information on it.
You want to address?
I have this here, but I don't have it. I don't have any information on it.
Well, I know the mayor submitted some stuff to us. I
Yep.
know. Yeah.
Oh, good, okay.
Um,
All right.
If I could, two things with, Mr. Wireball's not here this evening, obviously, and then the other thing is, we as a committee, as a council had, made that essentially promise to the residents, we were gonna put the tax levy out as a stop, a first stop, and if that doesn't pass, then we'll look at, the other options. I kind of would just like to just table this until our next meeting, which will be after the election. And then we can know where
I
our
agree.
path forward
I'll
is.
second. Yep. No problem.
All right, and we'll all look over the letter from the mayor so we can see, discuss this if we have to. All right. Back to the right page. Billet and manpower. All right, billet and manpower. I don't have that either.
So that's, I brought that up with the fire chief had asked, and we talked about it in health and safety and moved it on to finance.
Right.
We're just gonna basically request an additional 6 spots on the billet and manpower, so just amending the billet and manpower ordinance to increase the fire department staffing by 6.
With the approval of the
Well,
SAFER grant.
no, so we're authorizing the billet and manpower ordinance to be increased by 6. If we don't get the SAFER grant, we're obviously not gonna hire 6 guys. It's
For how long is that?
until this group changes it again.
How long is the SAFER grant for?
It's a 3-year, all the SAFER grants are 3
Okay.
years. But in this instance, what we're doing, we're just authorizing them to be able to hire up to 6 more should the grant be approved. And if the grant's not approved, then nothing happens.
How much is the grant for? Do you have any idea? What
Covers,
It funds 100% this year. It used to be a tiered structure, but ever since COVID, they've done it a little differently. And they will fund, if we've requested 6 positions, and they could give you 2, 4, 6, whatever. They will fund 100% of those positions for 3 years.
What happens after that?
So at the end of the 3 years, we as a city would make a decision, well, can we afford to keep these extra 6 people on? But what's gonna happen is over the next 6 years, we have 8 people that are eligible to retire.
Okay, okay. Just wanted to know more about it.
if I may add one thing too about the billet. I know Jeff down out at the street garage wants to change the way we have a couple things in the billet. So can we wait one more meeting that I can get that information?
I don't see why not. I mean,
Okay.
is there a?
I'll have it at the next meeting.
Because I talked to the chief today, and he's anticipating, we've moved on to the next phase, and he anticipates an answer soon, but he doesn't have an answer yet, so.
No, I talked to him about it too, and he said it won't hurt anything
Yeah,
if we.
I'm fine with that.
Wait a meeting. Now I'll have it at the next committee meeting.
That'll save us money on
Correct.
legislation too.
Yeah. Can we just throw that on the agenda for May the 4th? Thanks.
Okay. All right, we need more information on bringing money into expense account to reimburse valve trailer. Mr. Wagner.
I will refer to the auditor.
Yeah,
Okay, but-
that's what she gave us on Tuesday.
Right,
Yeah.
I know, but you know about those valve trailer.
Yeah, he's purchased the valve trailer. This was a grant that's coming in just to reimburse the money he had to use in that line. So it's $40,000 from going into waterworks, distribution, capital outlay. And yeah, we're trying to appropriate that money for Johnny E.
Okay.
That'll go with these other ones all together, though, on one piece, correct? Yeah.
All right, well, While you're
I'll
going
make a
about the
motion.
appropriations, just keep right
Just
on
keep on going, okay. So also, we're trying to win the bid for that 539 North Lane Street that was located in the floodplain. At noon today, we got the good news that we got it. So we need to appropriate, well, we haven't created the fund yet. I didn't know if that had to come first, or if we could do it all.
Yeah, I think we have to create, when we vote on it,
Okay.
at the next council meeting, we have to vote to create the fund before we can vote to
Okay, but at this
supplement the
point,
fund.
the order doesn't.
Right, tonight it doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Okay, so then we would be appropriating it through the FEMA fund under general government and the contractual services, $110,480 for the purchase of the house. Nothing in capital outlay for now, but just in case we may need it. And then 5,000 into other uses to reimburse the general fund because we had to make a check, have like a check pre-done, to purchase the house today.
If I may.
Yeah.
We had to have a deposit to be able to bid.
Yes, sorry,
Correct.
that's what it was.
Okay, sorry.
Just move on to the next one.
That's what the
then?
5,000 was.
Okay, and then to open the pool, we need appropriations for staffing, maintenance, and other operations. Would be in the regular 255 swimming pool fund. Under pool, personal services, we need to appropriate 43,000. Under contractual services, 600. Under materials and supplies, 50,000. And under capital outlay, 14,400, totaling $108,000.
If I could comment about the pool, we're looking like we might have enough lifeguards, but we have a couple groups that might be interested in running the concession stand, which save us a little bit of money on the expense side, but we'd lose the money on the revenue side. But as tight as we're gonna run this pool fund this year, might not be a bad idea to let somebody else run it. Let them make a little money. I did ask the Bucyrus Boosters, and then we have another group might be interested, so I'll let you know at the next meeting, and then you guys can kind of let me know what to do and which way to go.
From my opinion, I spoke with him earlier, I'll just share it publicly. I think that's an administrative function. If they want to
Sure.
hire somebody, hire somebody. I don't
I
think you
agree.
need to come back and ask us. I think just make it happen and put it together.
Yep.
That's, I guess, how I feel. And sounds
Yeah,
like
I
we all
agree with
feel
that
way.
too.
I just wanted to make you aware where we were and.
Just make sure they don't run out of pretzels.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, Mr. Chair,
yes.
I would like to first make a motion requesting emergency legislation to create Fund 264.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have
I'll second that.
All right. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
And then, if I may continue?
Yep.
I'd like to make a request emergency legislation approving the appropriations to Fund 701, Fund 264, Fund 255, and Fund 101 in the airport subcategory as emergency legislation.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Okay,
Was the money for bores included in that?
No, we need to.
Should that have been in that same appropriation, or?
No, I
Is that
don't believe
separate?
we have to appropriate it. I had spoken with Joyce. She said, you guys just have to authorize it. I put in the packet an example of the legislation that has been used before to authorize the auditor to issue a warrant or warrants as the case may be drawn. I guess it is the appropriate appropriation.
what, so the public knows what we're talking about.
Sorry.
This is a PO for the RA bores for $21,633.46 for the work already completed, and explain exactly where that work was.
Well, I think what happened is we were going through the end of the year and closing out POs to put the money back in the fund. Their PO actually got closed, and we were still holding their retainage, and that's what this is.
Okay.
So we just need to appropriate that out of, I think we're taking out of storm and Sewers and drains?
I believe so.
I think.
So if I may, I'll
Yes.
request emergency legislation that authorizes the auditor on behalf of the city to issue the warrant or warrants to pay RA boards the sum of $21,633.46.
I will second that.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Okay, well, we created the pool fund.
Well, we still need to create a line for this year? or
No,
you-
so the pool
It's there.
fund and the
It's there.
account line, we can pull both of those. I wasn't sure if we'd had to,
Yeah.
but because Hal will be receiving the revenue from the school system, it can go into the regular pool fund.
Okay.
Okay. All right,
I've got, are you on to the next step? Or I've got a question regarding the pool, just to make sure.
Yeah.
I've had some calls from some people, just, I think from what I've understood, just want to kind of clarify. The school district is using that grant, and they're going to purchase passes for their students, and I talked to Mr. Cook today. He said between you, your office, and his office are going to create a pass, and then they're going to laminate them and all that. So then if you go to another school or whatever, you're still going to pay your normal entry fee and things like that. I just want to make sure that it was correct, because I think people in the public kind of want to know what to expect. So if you are a Bucyrus school student, or if you are homeschooled under the Bucyrus umbrella, then you'll get a pass that's going to be issued either from us or from them, one way or the other.
Yeah, we haven't worked the details.
Yeah, so, but that's essentially what's going to happen. So if you're open enrolled, live in town and open enrolled or whatever, you're paying to get in just as any other year, right? Okay.
Well, there is one thing that the school has to do to give those passes, and they have to fill out like an affidavit of their parents signing and liability, but the school has to do that per their grant, however they get their money.
Okay.
And if the kids don't fill that out, or their parents don't,
They don't get the pass.
they don't get the
Okay.
pass. So,
But that's on them, not on us.
Right, the
We're
school-
doing our part.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, I talked to him this afternoon, and I think they may actually fund that a little differently where they don't have to follow all the rules and red tape, so.
yeah, there's two different ways, but they still
Yeah.
gotta fill out that paper.
Okay.
And they'll take care of that.
All right. Awesome.
Good.
okay, we're to the open projects. Is there anything you'd like to discuss?
I would.
Clear.
So I wanted to discuss the tax credit only because, in response to Mrs. Young's letter on Thursday. So she had asked what we were doing to increase revenues for the general fund. So I went around to the different departments that she had mentioned and asked them what they're doing. So in the income tax department, they create payment plans to help citizens, but also help the city, because the city receiving money on a payment plan is better than no payment at all. Every year, the income tax office sends fail to file letters to individuals required to file that have failed to do so. The income tax office receives a report from the state of Ohio listing all Bucyrus residents who have filed a state of Ohio tax return with their office. That information is used to send fail to file notices to individuals that have failed to file a Bucyrus return. From December of 2019 to present, our income tax office has sent $958,061.21 in outstanding balances to the Attorney General's office for collection. As of April 20th, 2023, the income tax office has received a total of $205,259.91 from the Attorney General's office, which leaves the total of $752,801.30 still uncollected. There are active court summonses in the police department for residents that have failed to file their tax returns. Now that the Income Tax Board of Review is in place, our income tax office can now assess tax penalty and interest to residents that have failed to file their tax returns. If those individuals do not pay or file an actual tax return for those years, the balance is sent to the Attorney General's office for collection. Fees are set by the state, and we can only choose to reduce those fees. For attracting industry and citizens to move to Bucyrus, wasn't quite able to talk to administration. We had a lot on our plate today with the pool, but we are a member of the Crawford County Partnership. For permits, license fees, registrations, and other services, in the packet I handed out, I included the very first page of the detailed trial balance. We send those out at the beginning of every month to all of our council members. So if you have some questions, you can ask them. They should be able to tell you a little bit about it. If you look at our fees on the first page, it shows you that the amount we are anticipating collecting is $43,400. But if you look under year-to-date amount collected, you can see we're falling behind in our projections. And even that $43,400 is, even if we doubled it, it would be $86,800. And it really wouldn't put a dent in the issues we're seeing with our general fund. So saying all this just to say, if the safety forces levy does pass, we are projecting revenues of around $852,980.79 strictly for safety force use. I have spoken with fire and police chiefs, and there are some things coming down the line which need to be taken into account. There is a new engine, which for the fire department, which is about $900,000. They are doing their best to write grants to try to receive funds for that. The city would pay a part of that, but hopefully not all. But even if we don't get that grant, that purchase still needs to be made. Fire will need a new ambulance. That will be a $360,000 purchase. And they're also, as Kevin mentioned earlier, anticipating retirements in the next 2 to 7 years, 7 or 8 of them. The police will need new cars, as most are approaching a decade old. They're having issues with their radio system. They are anticipating 6 retirements in the next 2 to 6 years. And they are also anticipating a similar raise to the fire department, which may raise salary lines for up to the salary lines 25% in the police department. So I'm just saying this to be as honest and transparent as I can, that the safety forces levy is a great stop. And there's nothing wrong with that, but in 2 years, 3 years, if something happens, it's just not a promise. I wanted, especially the lady who wrote the letter, to realize that voting for the levy is your choice. I will be voting for it, but it is not a promise. We just can't promise that nothing will happen in the future, that we may not have to do something else.
I think to tag on to that, when we passed the last safety forces levy, this is just a sign of the times where things cost more now than they did, and then we anticipated then. So I think that's perfectly said.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
Do you have a rough idea when these people retire of a total between those 14 people, what it's going to cost?
I don't have that with me. I had Kim start adding it up in the office, so.
A lot.
But even those amounts will not be, because they're going to be raises and things that happen in the meantime, because they're not all going to retire this year, so those will eventually be higher. All she can work off is this year's.
Vicki Dishon, 1108 Hillcrest Drive. In response, Kaylee, to your comment that the local board of tax review is now in place, if you'll recall, back on October the 4th, I had questioned the mayor on his appointment. Have you appointed someone yet to that tax review? When are you going to announce that?
I didn't know I had to announce it. I just appointed that person, so.
Is there any reason you don't want to state who that person is?
Joey Schiffer.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm sorry. I thought you knew that.
No.
Because I thought we talked about it last meeting.
No, at the last meeting, you said that you hadn't appointed anybody yet.
Oh, I thought Joyce's name.
Joyce's name had been mentioned, but not by you. And when I questioned, you said you were sick at the meeting before, so you didn't say a name, and then you said you hadn't appointed anybody yet. So, okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anything else for open projects? If not, public participation.
Name and address again?
No, we got you, Mike.
Bring sour grapes, maybe, a little with the good news, and I'm voting for the safety forces levy also. But I think, and I'm going to present to the council, and I know our council is going to be making a drastic change come the first year after the election. But I think it's time, and you don't want to wait till the last minute to do this. If the safety forces levy passes, and I'm hoping God willing it does, that'll take care of our problem now. But we just listen to what the future is bringing us. Personally, I think the city needs to stop and take a look at a levy for the safety forces that comes from property and not from income. I'll give you a couple quick examples without doing a lot of studies. Retired people, I have nothing against old people, I'm in that group, but I don't have to pay income tax. Doesn't make me, it makes me happy I'm not losing money. Doesn't make me happy I'm not paying my fair share. I believe I get the same services from fire and police that everybody else in the city does. And I should pay my fair share. I have a house here. I lived here. The other point I'll bring out briefly is think about the businesses or the buildings we have in town. They get the same fire protection, or if somebody has a vacant house, same fire protection, but under an income tax levy, we've got the temporary stopgap. But what income is the city making off of a business that's sitting empty? But if it was on property tax, the person that owns that building or had that business is going to be paying something on property. I just want to throw this out. We're early on, but like I said, personally, you don't wait till you fall in the hole and then figure out how to get out. Let's stop before we fall in the hole. Okay. And I would ask the council, I think you really should start taking a serious look at making the safety forces levy a full property levy. And that's about all.
If I could, Mr. Castor, just to share with you, we did look at that when we put this together, and one of the things we felt like was because of the recession that we felt like we were going into, we chose not to do it for that very reason.
Yeah. And I
just want you to know that we didn't just throw caution to the wind and just pick one or the other.
Yeah.
We did a lot of research, we did a lot of discussion, and there was a lot of thought put into that. I want to make sure you understood that.
But as I've said before, I've watched, since I started coming up here, I've watched you guys work as a team and look at how to take care of it and work it out. But the only reason I mentioned it tonight, we were talking about the levy, about the money, about retiring. And I just wanted to throw it out. I think it's time to bring it back to the table for you guys to start sitting down, sharpen your pencils. And like I said, I've complimented the alder a lot of times. That lady sitting over there is going to tell you the figures you're going to have to work with coming a year from now, 5 years from now.
Yeah.
So, but that's why I threw it out. And I think for the public too. You know, I'll be honest with you. What we're looking at that we did right now, the way our economy is going and so on, unfortunately, we have to have it if we want to maintain fire and police, but it's going to be a temporary stopgap, I'm going to be honest.
Right.
We need a levy in place that no matter who's living in Bucyrus, has businesses here, owns property here, they need to be paying their fair share for the protection we're getting and the services that are being provided. And I think that's why I wanted to throw it out tonight. We just need to start taking a look at it so that come, I think it's 5 years is the levy. That's
the one that's being voted on now, yes.
That come 4 or 5 years from now, you already have a plan laid out, you have it in black and white paper in your notes, that you're ready to move on and maybe get it off the income tax and show the people why it needs to become a property tax. And I understand this COVID thing and this recession that we're not in is taking its toll. You know, and I understand, and I'm sure you guys looked at it and worked at it. And yes, it was a bad time. It probably would have been a questionable one to really push because everybody was hurting. And I'm in one of those groups, you always hear us say, you know, but I'm on a fixed income. But we have a lot of us in town here, we are. But a lot of the older people I talk to and stuff, they do recognize our safety forces and what everybody does for us from the city. Fire, ambulance, police, council, administration, waterworks. We're using all the services. So that's the only thing I wanted to bring up. But I guess I wanted to jump ahead. Sometimes we have a habit of putting things off that we don't think we got to adjust right now. Then all of a sudden it's staring us in the face.
Right.
So I think that's why I'm throwing it out here. Let's not wait till the 12th hour and say, oh, we got 3 minutes to get this done before midnight strikes. So that was my only purpose. But no, I have no doubt that you guys looked at this 6 ways from Sunday before you made your decision to how to resolve the matter for this year.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
My name's Greg White. I live at 1125 Hillcrest Drive. I think this committee needs to start looking at the viable option that this income tax is not going to last 2 years. It's already been said that and already been stated that in prior meetings. It's not even going to last 2 years. Am I correct?
Well,
With the increases in retirement that are coming up and everything, that you're going to need almost $2 million to pay out on retirements coming up?
I don't know about the $2 million. I have to go grab.
The buyouts and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
the buyouts are going to
Yeah.
be expensive.
So what I'm going to suggest to this committee is to look at, because like it said, people who do not pay income tax, okay, are receiving the same services that everybody else is paying. And most of these people are older people. And yes, they're going to be relying on the EMS service more and more and more, okay? As you age, you're going to be relying on that more and more. Transport to the hospital and all this other stuff. So my suggestion to this committee, and if I have to bring it up in full council, is let's not wait. As soon as this passes, this committee should sit down, maybe with a group of residents too, and say, hey, what are some viable options? My suggestion is to put on 2 levies for property tax, one for the fire, one for the police department, with no exceptions, okay, on any tax breaks on those levies. Okay, because older people, you get homestead, get their, 35% off their, property taxes after a certain age, that there would be no exceptions. Everybody would pay full property tax, completely and totally. My other question for the auditor, how much money under the current safety forces levy, okay, is the difference between the people that pay 100% and the people that get the 35% tax reduction? How much money is that difference?
I'm not sure, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm asking this question because I would like an answer
okay.
to it.
No problem.
Because the reason why is I think you'd be surprised how much money that this city is actually losing with that 35% tax reduction that older people don't have to pay. Nothing against older people, but I'm telling you what, I think you'll be surprised to see how much money the city is actually losing on that current levy that's on the ballot right now. That I think when you figure out, when she comes up with the number, you're going to be looking at probably close to, and I'm just going to throw this figure out, probably $800 to $1.2 million. I'm just going to throw that out there. That's just the guesstimate. But I think once you call the county auditor and ask her what that information is, you're going to be very surprised how much money that levy is actually losing with that tax reduction on there.
Before you leave, can I get your email so when
Sure.
I know I can email you? Okay.
Yeah. But I think right now this committee needs to not wait, like the gentleman just said, till the last 11 hour and 59 second minute or whatever. Okay? But I would like to see you guys propose 2 property tax levies. One for police, one for fire. I think it would make it easier on the auditor too, because then she knows how much is exactly coming in for each one of those levies, and then those fire chiefs and administration would know exactly what's coming in off those levies. And like I said, with no exceptions, everyone should have to pay 100% property tax on those 2 levies. Plain and simple. And it should be put out to the voters. It shouldn't wait. That way, if you guys can come up with the proposals within this next year, I'd put it on the ballot right away, okay? And I almost guarantee you, it would probably pass, as long as you put in there that this income tax, if that passed, and I think it's what, 6 months before you can recur property taxes after a levy passes, correct?
I'm not sure, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have to check with the tax department.
Okay, but I think if you say that once we start receiving money after that 6-month period or whatever, the first money comes in, that the income tax would be taken off the books. And I think you would find people that would be more than willing to pass those 2 levies for each individual. Then there wouldn't be this bickering. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else? Okay, with that, I will call finance adjourned at 7:25.